This JetNet tutorial will show you how to import an Excel spreadsheet into your JetNet Grade Book. There are any number of reasons why instructors may prefer to keep their grades in Excel. This poses some challenges, one of which is communicating ongoing grades to students. In any event, if you do want to keep your grades in Excel, you can, and then import them at any time during the course. There are a few pitfalls that you need to be made aware of, and hopefully I'll be able to touch on those in this video. The very first thing I recommend is exporting your grade book into an Excel format and then using that format to keep the grades. One of the reasons that this is helpful is because you're going to be using the email address as the key column that will help you reassociate grades with student names. That makes sure that it's there. Also, this process looks for a one-to-one correspondence between students and the Excel sheet that you're going to create. It also captures any of the cells or any of the columns that may be associated with grades that JetNet might provide to you, or that you have assigned in JetNet and you want to capture those. So first thing I'll do is do an export. Just click on the export in the JetNet Grade Book. You're going to choose the Excel spreadsheet option. There are other options, but for this we're going to use Excel. We'll go ahead and include the course topics and the course total. The course total isn't as necessary. The topics discussion is one that I would like to capture because it is an assignment that does need a grade. Click on download, and then you'll get a file that will open up in Excel. I'm going to enable editing, and then let's take a look at this. So what we see here is we see the student's name first and last. ID number, institution, and department are in the JetNet defaults. You don't need those. You can actually delete those. So I'm just going to get rid of them. Email is critical. You want to make sure you keep that. This forum course topics, that's an assignment that was created in JetNet. I do want to keep this. The course total, as I said, not important. I can delete that. And this is supposedly a date when this was downloaded, and I can get rid of those. Now I can do the grades any way I want to. Once I do the grades, let's say I create a grade for a quiz. I can put any grades that I want to in here for the students and so on. Once my grade book is done, or to the point where I want to export it, it's very important that you save it as a comma separated file. So you're going to go to File, Save As, and then you're going to choose the comma separated value format, CSV. So you want to give this a name. For example, I might want to title it by the name of the course. This is Humanities 330 or something like that. But you always want to make sure that you save it as a comma separated value format. And then Excel will yell at you and tell you that it's incompatible with many important features. You say, yes, I know that, and then you're done. Another important thing is that even though JetNet now allows for grades greater than 100, the import function does not support that. So make sure that you don't have any grades larger than 100 in your Excel sheet, or that column will not work. You can enter those manually later if you want to, and this may change at some point in the future. All right, so now let's say that you've created your grade book in Excel. You have it just the way you want it. Let's take a look at it. Here I have my forum topics. That's the forum that was done in JetNet. I've graded that. I've got all the quizzes, the midterm, a project paper, a final exam, and I have a total. Another important function that you need to know, or another important fact that you need to know, is that this total isn't something you want to import. It is not a grade. It is the sum of all of the grades. JetNet expects to calculate that for you. So when we do this import, you'll see that we're going to ignore this total. This is one of the pitfalls that I mentioned about doing grades in Excel. If you have a very complicated grading format or formula with weights and things that you apply in Excel, it may be difficult to get JetNet to replicate that perfectly. So if you're going to be using very complicated formulas, you may want to make a note of that, and when you do the upload when you import this gradebook at the end of the term, you'll want to make a note of that, and you'll override any errors that JetNet might make. Okay, so I've got this. It's saved as a comma delimited format, the comma separated value. You can see that here in the file name. Once I have that, I'm ready to do the import. So I can close this out, and again, back into JetNet, I'm going to go to the import function. Now, in the import function, I'm going to choose the default, the comma separated value format. I'm going to choose file here, browse. This is a typical interface for locating files on your system. I'm going to go to desktop, and I should see my Humanities 330 right there. Then I upload the file. Takes it a moment to receive the file. All right. We're going to make sure that it says comma here. See tab, nope, comma, yes, colon, nope, semicolon. All are valid options, but this is the comma separated. All of this we can leave the same and click upload grades. Here's giving us a preview. Now, when you see this, don't celebrate because it's not done yet. Much can fail before you get to the successful celebration of a successful complete upload. But this shows us that we're mapping here. Very good. Now we have to make that map work in the actual upload. So here where it says identify user by, found the best is email address. Map that to email address. So you see here, map from email address. That's the column in my Excel spreadsheet. Map to email address. That's the column header in JetNet. Now each item has to be mapped. First name, I'm going to ignore. I'm not going to overwrite, in other words, that. Last name, I'm going to ignore. Email address, I can ignore because it's taken care of here. Then, this is an empty column. Notice here, there's no header here. This is an empty column in my Excel sheet. I ignore that. Here is my course discussion, my forum. That I want to map into the course discussion topic that was created by JetNet. That will make sure that the grade from my Excel spreadsheet gets into the right place in my JetNet gradebook. Quiz 1, I need to map to a new grade item. Quiz 2, a new grade item, and so on. That's because none of these were created by JetNet. These are all items that I created in my Excel sheet. They all have to be mapped to new grade items. An empty column I'm ignoring, and the total I'm ignoring. I am not going to import the total. I'm going to get JetNet to create that for me. Once I have done all of my mappings, then I can hit upload grades, and hopefully it will work. It says success. Let's take a look at it by hitting continue. All right, now we're back to grader report, and here we have our grades all entered, and you'll see that the course total is supplied by JetNet. We can always go into our setup and modify the way this is set up by editing. For example, we might switch this to natural if we wanted to use a point-based system. We can create categories as we want, and so on. Hopefully this has been useful in helping you understand how to import an Excel spreadsheet into your gradebook.